All right, welcome to another edition of Weather and Climate Chat with Monsoon Mike Regensberger and Dr. Michael Davis. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Been a little longer than usual since I saw you because last week was a Thanksgiving holiday, and Thanksgiving seemed to go pretty much as we had thought. Started unseasonably warm and ended a little more on the seasonally cool side. Speaking of which, going back to that one really warm day last week, I think we both deserve to win that because you called, I listened back to the recording, you called 63, 64 as the highest we would go. I called 65. It just so happened I looked up the readings for that day, the Monday prior, and or not the Monday prior, whatever, that Friday, Black Friday. And Reading did 64, Allentown did 65. So we were both right. So I spoke with Sooty the Weather Cat and Rossby the Weather Cat, and they both say that we both deserve to win that one. So they're pretty nice cats.
Did you have to bribe Rosby with treats?
I did, yeah. Sooty too, yeah. So he said they both deserve to win that one. Let it go. So one city was what he said, the other city was what he said. So yeah, that was an unseasonably warm Black Friday. So there was no freezing your behinds off waiting in line for that big screen TV. And then we got back into a more seasonal pattern, and this past week's been kind of up and down as well. We're getting pretty seasonally nice weekend, if not a little unseasonably warm this weekend. In fact, Sunday looks like around mid-50s possible.
Yeah, it's looking like the mid-50s. We have a really strong high pressure that's pretty much dominating most of the eastern U.S. at this point. I know for my Friday quiz for my meteorology class, I was having a difficult time trying to pick a city that had some interesting weather because most of it is pretty ambient and quiet right now.
Yeah, so pretty quiet right through till about Tuesday here when it looks like our next precipitation event rolls in.
It looks like there's going to be a low pressure pretty much forming off the Carolina coast and just heading northeastward. I don't think the temperatures are going to get that cold enough to support snow, but typically in that sort of fashion, you might be concerned about a coastal low / nor'easter developing, but that's several weeks, if not months down the road at this point.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of a little bit of snow, I mean, so far this year, we've pretty much had a big goose egg, except for some flurries here or there, or that grapple incident we had back in October. What is normal for this time of year? I know I saw on the Scranton station, I get Scranton TV stations where I live, they were saying they're actually a little below because by this time of year for Scranton, they should have about 2-3 inches, and they have pretty much 0. What's normal for our area this time of year?
Well, it depends on where you actually are in the area.
It's very variable.
But since the start of the year, we've been about 2-3 inches below normal. At most locations. I would have to check online what exactly, or with the archives, what exactly that number was. I haven't really been paying that close attention to the numbers, but we are below average for this time of year. So it's been a drier year. It's been a fairly dry autumn, and just December 1st was the first day of meteorological winter. Yeah. So now we're starting to get to the winter times in meteorology and climate. I will say I went to Canada over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, how was
break.
that?
It was cold.
It was cold?
And again, it's Canada.
Yeah.
And I was talking to people up there, and they haven't had any snow in some areas as well. So even up to our neighbor to the north, they haven't got any snow either. So most of the snow has been further out in the plains where they were getting several inches in a couple events like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
3 weeks ago,
Iowa, Illinois, yeah.
And we just haven't had any right now. I think it's because of the warmer waters of the ocean and not really allowing that colder air to get established.
So is that the famous El Nino we keep hearing about, keeping the cold air locked up north?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, this El Nino is pretty strong, and you're going to have that sort of condition develop over the Northeast where we typically get warmer winters because of the cold air being bottled up.
Right.
You also have the Arctic oscillation to look at about how wavy the polar jet or the polar vortex is.
Right.
So you have to keep an eye on that. And you have to look at the North Atlantic oscillation, which you and I know is very important for heavy snowfalls in this area. And all those coming together would give you a good synopsis or snapshot of what exactly is to be expected over the next couple of weeks. But right now it looks like it's going to be warm for December.
Now, I do love the media because the media, I guess when they don't have any good storms to hype, since we've been kind of, devoid of any good storms to hype lately, they latch on to whatever they can latch on to. And I've seen multiple headlines this past week. Historic December warmth coming up, and the way they're acting, you might think we're going to be in t-shirts and t-shirts and shorts on Christmas Day. Do you think it gets that warm, or do you think?
No.
Okay,
that'd be wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But it does look like we're going to be above average. Usually, I believe around Christmas time, we're in the upper 30s,
about
low
38,
40s,
39,
somewhere around there is our typical Christmas time average. And we should be probably in the mid-upper 40s, potentially.
Even low 50s possible at times.
Maybe a low 50, yeah. But we're not going to be anywhere higher than that, like 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
No,
that's what people got to realize. I mean, it's all relative to when we hear these terms above normal, it's relative to what's normal at that time of year. So as, 49 degrees a month ago would have been just about right, but 49 degrees on Christmas Day would be 10 degrees above normal. So,
and that would be well above average.
Right.
And then that would lead to a potential really warm December, which is what the Climate Prediction Center was talking about.
It definitely looks like we're going to be more most of the month, and maybe there's some indications of things getting maybe a little more winter-like toward the end of the month, but nothing solid to jump onto yet. Are you seeing anything solid?
I haven't seen anything yet, but the Climate Prediction Center also said that we'd be having an above-average risk of precipitation. So
that's
it looks like it could be a little bit more wet than usual.
Okay.
But if it's going to be warmer, perhaps it's going to be more in rain than snow.
But maybe a couple early morning ice events before,
There very well could be.
Yeah,
yes.
if it's one of those things where the rain comes in around 2, 3, 4 in the morning and, warms up to the 40s that day, maybe that rush hour time could be a little tricky on some days.
Especially if we're getting colder nights. You might have precipitation change over to snow overnight. But overall, it doesn't look very conducive for snowfall this December.
Yeah, so your chances of a white Christmas historically are always about 1 in 3. This year, more maybe 1 in 10 at this point. It's not looking too positive.
Yeah, I'd probably go 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 8.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Okay, so if you're looking forward to a white Christmas, you might have to find a different part of the country to get that
and
wish.
Even then, you might be hard-pressed.
Might be hard-pressed to find it somewhere. That says something right there that even Canada was short on snowfall. Now, I wanted to ask you, and I don't think I remembered to ask you a couple weeks ago, one of the weather sites I go to was excited because Siberia had some record snow this past fall, and they said that that's a lot of times historically where that's equated to whenever they've had a lot of snow, it tends to be a snowy winter here. Is that true? Is there any science to that?
There are a lot of teleconnections in the atmosphere, which means if something's happening in one area, it typically means something's happening in the other.
Right.
For example, last winter when we had several visits from the polar vortex, and we had the cold air that was locked across most of North America, Russia and Siberia had a warmer winter because all that colder air was sitting on top of us. And if you move that air from one area to another, logically someone's going to be warmer if someone's colder.
Right.
Now, typically if you have a more snowy autumn or winter about this time of year, maybe a little bit prior to then, typically that does mean we get a little bit more snow. So there is a little bit of a correlation between the two.
Okay.
But a lot of things have to happen, like jet stream has to be set up right, we have the amount of moisture, and what is El Nino going to do? Because that is the big wild card of the whole winter pretty much.
Right.
So if that's the case, typically you'd be thinking maybe we're going to have a little bit more snow, but with it being warmer, maybe it's more rain. That's what the Climate Prediction Center's suggesting at this point.
Or maybe setting up for some of those tricky mixed type situations.
Yeah, mixed bag, precipitation, growlpool, rain, snow, sleet, freezing
all that
rain.
Messy slop. And I'm a big winter fan, but if it's going to be that 40-ish type temperature, just make it summer already. Just skip that ice stuff and let's either have a big snowstorm or get into summer. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I used to work for the post office.
Right.
Mail,
and
the carriers would always say that the worst weather for them is rain when it's about 40 degrees, right? When they doesn't know when it wants to change over to rain or snow.
Yeah, that's just nasty. Yeah, absolutely. I would not. Were you a carrier? Did you actually walk?
Yes,
Oh, you did.
I was an actual carrier.
In Ohio?
In Ohio,
So
yes.
you had some interesting stories, I'm sure, to share with that.
Oh, yeah. I tell the students that.
Did you ever break any bones on any ice or anything like that? Or
no,
good?
It was mostly, I was fortunate that I only had delivered mail during the summer.
Oh, okay. So you were lucky. Okay.
But I had to deliver it in the heat.
Well, that's still brutal. Yeah, absolutely.
That was brutal, too.
Yeah. Wow. So interesting stuff. Okay, so October, where did I get that from? December looking above normal. We should go back just quickly to November and just wrap up November. November was one of the warmer Novembers in history.
We had pretty much most areas had one of their top 5.
Wow.
November temperatures on record for the entire month. And again, that goes back to relative to the month. It doesn't mean we're going to have 80 degrees, although it was fairly warm at the beginning of November.
It was, yeah. We had that one day, I think, in the 70s, or a couple days.
Yeah, that's when
70s.
you got me.
Yeah. Yes. That's right. That's right. That's when we soared to, what was it, 77, I think that one day we made it up to.
Yeah, I think so.
It was
got pretty
crazy.
warm, man.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
But overall, it was a very warm November, and most areas had a record warmth.
Right.
Not exactly perhaps an all-time record, but a very strong warming November.
Yeah.
And that could be a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Because we've been seeing relative years from about now till 2000. Most of those years have been warmer than average and shattering record upon record.
Now, this is one of the strongest El Niños that we've had in a number of years. I know a lot of the weather people keep equating back to, I think the last really strong one was 97, 98.
That was the last strong one. Yes.
Yeah, the last strong one. And I looked that up, and Philadelphia, I looked at Philadelphia since that's the biggest, huge city near us, practically no snow at all that winter. And then prior to that, 82, 83. Now, that winter was kind of deceiving, and I saw Hurricane Schwartz on Channel 10 in Philadelphia talking about that one, because that one actually ended up above normal snowfall, but he pointed out that like 25 inches of that snowfall came in one storm. So it was a warm winter, and then February 11th was the February blizzard of 83, which until 96 was Philadelphia's biggest one-day snowfall. So he said, just don't be deceived by that, because that was all in one, or almost all in one storm. So could something like that happen this year? Could we sail through until February and then all of a sudden get pounded?
I certainly think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
You have these sorts of situations with El Nino that cause periods of warmth, which then can lull someone to sleep.
Right.
And then they don't think about the other side of the argument, which is you have warmer temperatures by us, colder temperatures near the pole. You're going to have a much sharper temperature gradient, which causes the jet stream to dive down. And when you have that cold air coming into the warm air, you can get a whopper of a snowstorm.
Yeah. I'd have to really dig into the archives, but I believe somebody said, Hurricane or one of those other people said, that the week prior to that February 11th, 83 snowstorm, there was a record high of 70 degrees in the Philadelphia area. So everybody was like, it's winter's done. We sail through that one, and then bam. So
yeah, they could definitely blindside you if you don't pay attention to what's going on.
So that might be the kind of winter that we're looking at around here. Maybe. We don't know. It's because there's so many different... back in 83, we really didn't know much about the NAO and the PDO and all these other things that we now know more about.
Yeah, these large-scale oscillations were largely primitive at that point.
Right.
We didn't really have the understanding that we do now. And now that we have this consortium of models and oscillations to look at, we can actually have a better estimate as to what to expect. Okay.
Well, there you have it, folks. But we had no trouble filling 15 minutes just talking about the month coming up. So in summary, nice weekend coming up, a little bit above normal, temperatures in the 50s, sunshine, next chance of some rain Tuesday. Should basically be all liquid, no frozen concerns unless you're way up in some northern elevation somewhere, maybe a little bit. Did you want to jump in there, or you were just...
No, it's just mainly going to be rain, and you don't even know if the low is going to be close enough to shore to even impact us.
That's true. That's a good point, because it could, some models have the storm just skimming to our south. Yeah.
But if we are going to get any precipitation on Tuesday and Wednesday, it should be in the form
here.
of
It'd be
rain.
all rain. I just said that because yesterday somebody sent me a picture. They were in Carbon County. They're like, I had a little bit of snow this morning, and I said, well, what's your elevation? And they're 1,500 feet up in the air. So, of course, if you're in an area like that, you might get a little bit of something. But I don't think we have many listeners 1,500 feet in elevation. So
no, I don't think so.
So that's the only reason I threw that out there. And then the rest of December looks mild. Basically on the mild side. But don't let your guard down, because we could still get some of those little surprises, like you said, early mornings or whatever. But
but even then, I don't think they're going to be major at this point. But again, it's December, it's winter.
Right.
You should be expecting snowstorms and snow eventually at some point.
Okay, and that's a good point. Just throw that out there. We hear, the technical winter, and we hear meteorological winter. Meteorological winter began on December 1st. What does that basically mean? That just means that's the 3 months that is the most likely for winter weather?
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, which does most of the weather data and models for the United States, pretty much classifies the months of December, January, and February as meteorological winter, because those are the months that pretty much exemplify winter time weather. And climate.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the breakdown March, April, May being meteorological spring, June, July, August being summer, and then
September,
October, November be meteorological autumn.
Okay. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, because some people...
Versus astronomical.
Astronomical. That's the word winter. I couldn't think of. I'm like, I called it technical. And I'm like,
which would be around December 20th, December 21st.
Yeah, it's always 20, 21, 22, somewhere there. Okay. Cool. All right. So there you have it, folks. Just letting you people know that we will continue these throughout winter break. I mean, already next week is exam week, so good luck to all the students out there listening for exams next week. Study hard, do well. You shouldn't have many weather concerns other than a little bit of rain, maybe on Tuesday. So do well on your exams, but you and I are going to continue most of the winter break, except for right around Christmas, New Year's, when we're all off. Might take a week or two off, but
and I may have some guests,
and you may have some guests, which we're very excited about. Some may be via satellite, so we never know. Could be bringing them in from on telephone. So
more teleconnections.
Teleconnections. There you go. That's what we try to do here at KUR. All right, so you behave yourself, Dr. Davis, and we'll see you again next week.
Sounds good.
Okay.